Hey everyone, so we're going to have a little bit of a break from Santa Left today. Gonna have a little bit of a chat, just get up to speed because it's April 1st here. What I've done in March, I think I've made good headway on the channel. Started from zero, right? So not only the channel, but the whole brand of Banshee Interactive has gone pretty far in that time frame. But we'll talk just about the channel for now. So when we started off, we didn't even have this. This is all new. So we've got the Rode Pod mic, which I think is a brilliant investment in the channel. It makes life so much easier. I can just pull it out on the arm like this. I can just pull it out on the arm when I want to use it, stow it away when I don't. And to go along with that, I've got the Elgato low profile arm, and I've also got the Elgato camera stand. So what you're seeing now is my camera just lives there, and the camera that I'm using is an FX30. Now I know that isn't something that most YouTubers really start with, but it's one that I use for other work, and it's better than, if I've got it, use it. And it's on a 15mm Sony G f1.4. That's why I can work off just one lamp. I don't need stupid lights everywhere. It looks great. I'm looking at it on the screen here. I think it looks brilliant. The only thing that isn't too great is with the USB-C cable I have, it's only outputting 720p, which is perfectly fine for a face cam. So if we swap it over here, it's perfect. It's more than you would ever expect or need, right? And then if we go back to here, I have to have it this sort of size, otherwise it doesn't look great. I can get it up to 1080p if I can get a cable that does the job. But right now, stock of everything is just impossible to find. And most cables here in Thailand are sold based on how well they will charge an iPhone, not what data it will transfer. So even though this is one of the best cables that, has all the fast charge capabilities and stuff, it just doesn't have the bandwidth to send that signal. Now, the other reason I'm not too worried about this is because if I wanted, to use the HDMI output and record 4K from the camera, then I could go, sort of Elgato 4KX, which I have been toying with the idea of, but I don't want to spend a massive outlay on this channel whilst, the numbers are still very, very low, single digit. So I know they say that, you should make content as though there's already 1 million people watching, but you have to be realistic about this. And like I said, it is tertiary, and it is a public facing front of my research and development. It isn't so much a income revenue generation for me, not at this point in time. It would be nice if it could turn into that, obviously, because that would mean that I could work on the video game with a little bit more security, but at the same time that would probably take the edge off what I'm doing. So everything's for a reason, right? But anyway, I'm very pleased with this sort of setup, especially the sound, especially when I'm playing games. For a while I thought maybe I would want a second monitor, but I really like how having this LG here, which is another thing we didn't have at the start of the month. I was still using my 1440p MSI, which whilst it wasn't a bad panel, like everything, it was getting a little long in the tooth. 3 years ago, post-pandemic, it was a good buy, and it was good enough that I never needed to sort of upgrade it. When I was doing my photography work, as most things are viewed on Mac screens, my second pass would usually be with the MacBook. I have a fully calibrated Dell monitor over there that's now Dell's. So, it's one of those things where I never really needed an upgrade. But then when I started this, I was like, okay, now's the time to get modernized. So we have the LG dual mode 4K OLED, True Black HDR 400. So I can see these games exactly as they're intended to be seen. I can record them with a 4K canvas. screen grab 4K canvas for my benchmarking, and it pushes my 5080 probably a little bit more than it would like, but the 5080 is a 4K card. You know, that's how the generation is broken up, really, isn't it? 5070 is a 1440p card, and the 5080 is a 4K card. And in my opinion, and I know that I'm in the minority in this, but the 5070 Ti is a halfway house that kind of does neither. I mean, it does. It's you know, overkill for 1440p and doesn't really do 4K. So I think that it's sort of a spec sale, 16 gigabyte VRAM, and it's a spec sale off of the back of that. But high textures at 1440p aren't going to be killing your VRAM that much, I don't think. But only the future will tell what will happen. So far, I'm happy with my 5080. I would love a 5080 Super with 24 gigabytes of VRAM and everything else being pretty much the same. If they can get a little bit more power out of it, another 10%, that would be great. But that's what I want. That's what I want from NVIDIA. Let's see if they actually deliver or not. Highly doubt it. But anyway, as I was saying, I'm toying with the idea of a 4K capture card, but then where do you stop? So really, let's just go with this for a little bit. We've got the new mic, we've got the boom arm, we've got the holder for the camera. I'm using a camera that's super overkill and would be super overkill to get a better image out of. But if I did go HDMI, I could do a baked-in LUT, so I could grade the image, you know, and have it look great from you know, the box, basically. So we've got the OLED monitor, like we said. We've also got the 8-bit DO controller. So one of my main aims was to test out TMR and high hertz polling. So this is only 1000 hertz polling, but it solves two problems for me. Problem number one is it's got the Hall effect triggers and the TMR joysticks, so that I can start benchmarking titles and know that, you know, the input, the problem isn't the controller, the weak link isn't the controller. And second of all, it comes with a charging dock, so it's always charged up, ready for these playthroughs. And the last purchase that I made was a mouse. So I got, with the Super Strike coming out, and I would like a Super Strike, but they just rocking horse shit, you know, hen's teeth, whatever you want to put it. They're just unobtainium right now in Thailand. But I got the Dex, the Superlight Dex 2, and this has the 44K DPI sensor and the 8K polling. And to be honest, I think that 1K polling is more than enough. And DPI wise, I never really go over 4000 personally. But it's a beautiful mouse. It's half the weight of my old Basilisk, and it won't wear on the edges. So I'm really happy with that purchase. Which this is where I'm going to go into my future purchases. So I think that when we look back at how I wanted to start this channel, I think we're getting there, right? We're starting to get the tools we need to do the benchmarking that we need to do. I finished Resident Evil 9, and I'll bring up that first of all. Okay, so let me just bring this up in the background, and then I'll get this. So let's move over to the desktop, and then let's change the window capture to there we are. So this is my website for Banshee Interactive. This is another thing that I've done this month. So we've got everything from, you know, the About Me page, inventory and benchmarking, which is if you want to see, you know, what I'm sort of working with and what I'm trying to do, it's here. I finished Resident Evil Requiem. We are doing the playthrough, which is basically a live test for whether or not streaming is a viable option, and we're doing that with Silent Hill F right now, about halfway through. And you know, there's points that I think I might do another video where instead of going forward with Silent Hill, I think I'll just talk about what I've seen so far in the game. And then these are the items we've purchased here for benchmarking. And then obviously I've got my narrative samples. Feel free to go through and have a read of those if you want. And then these are my plans for my studio. And for Project Alpha, the investor brief is locked behind a what's it called? Behind a password. So let's just so this is the live. I haven't made it live, so what I'm going to have to do is I'm just going to have to flick you over a minute. So let's put you back over to the face cam whilst I log into Squarespace proper. Squarespace. I don't want you seeing all my passwords on my other site. So this is a sneak peek of what I'm working on. So this will be the first of my benchmarks. And let's get OBS back onto the right page. So here we are. So can I turn this off? So here we are. This is what I am currently working on now, which is a write-up, which is an internal benchmark. And you can see, you know, the version, the engine, the settings, the hardware I'm using, frame rates I'm getting, a little bit of a disclaimer. And then, so here we have, you know, I love this shot. And this is what I really dislike about what NVIDIA did with DLSS 5, which is they took a low res, terrible shot of Grace rather than, you know, a proper image of her. And then again, this is early game, this is late game, and then we've got my intro. These are my first impressions, and then I'll do my deep dive, which is a personal benchmark that will be public facing, but it is for internal use in benchmarking comparative titles and the industry and market placement. So that's a bit weird. I think it's because it's dark in this room. It's sort of going bright and dark. I don't know if that will show. So I'm going to quit out of this now. And I'm going to quit out of this as well. And we'll have a little look at what I'm looking at. So yes, this is a case for my second build, but I'll come back to that later. So here we are. Let's have a little look. This is the LG C5Z, which is sort of like a pro designation. It's a little bit better than the C5. And because the C6 has just been announced, you'll see that the price of it is almost half. And I managed to get this for $34,992, which is around about $1,000. So I kind of feel like I've stolen it. And I was umming and ahhing about whether I wanted to make my second system a Steam machine and have it for benchmarking games on a larger screen, or even, you know, in the evenings where I don't want to sit here, I can sit out there and I can just capture footage from over there, and also just for personal enjoyment for myself and for my partner and the household. And I just couldn't say no to the price of this. Everyone knows the C5 is one of the best panels that money can buy, WOLED. And it's also made me think what I'll do is I'll probably end up using that, seeing how it goes with the second system, and then getting the 42-inch if it stays at this price. So in terms of cost, it's not as, you know, 34,000 baht, $1,000 is, you know, for the size, it's still relatively expensive, but it's also far cheaper than it usually is. So you're talking about $750 from $1,000, still cheaper than, you know, most monitors. And I'm thinking about getting this if I'm not going to have a second system, if I'm just going to be running off my main. Pardon me. So if I'm just going to be running off my main system, I'm thinking of getting this and having it either on the wall or on a desk here, so that I can also play this on, you know, a C5. So we've got the C5 in here, the C5 in there, and then we've got the OLED monitor for when we need that, which I think would be a good baseline. I think for benchmarking purposes, I think that it covers all bases, but money isn't isn't unlimited, so I have to really think about my purchases strategically and how they're going to help the channel, how they're going to help the game, how they're going to help with my efforts and, you know, quality of life, that sort of thing as well. But I think even to the extent of, if I go back to doing photography or videography, it's nice to have a reference monitor here, which would be a larger panel. So I think that, you know, being able to throw images over from the 32-inch over onto the 42-inch will benefit me no matter what sort of way we go. And my plan as well is still to have that XP Pen system at some point, but we're not into the 3D modeling just yet, even though I am starting to sort of look up the photogrammetry side. But again, it's sort of, what am I going to photogrammetry? At this point, it would just be learning the systems. And by the time that I'm ready, the systems have probably evolved anyway. I think it's more about bending the tool to the purpose rather than bending the purpose to the tool. That's my ethos. So with the PC going outside to the new C5, it's going to need a what's it called, a controller, right? So I'm using the 8BitDo in here, or I might move the 8BitDo out there, and I'm thinking this is now a perfect excuse for me to get the Wolverine, which is the controller I wanted from the beginning. I just thought that if I got the Wolverine from the get-go, I wouldn't give the 8BitDo the chance it needs, and it would skew my feelings towards what this technology is. So I think that now that I've got a baseline with the 8BitDo, I can go into the Wolverine and appreciate it for what it is, and also be able to contextualize anything in between. So that's the plan. I think I'm going to order this probably tomorrow, and then get that out the way. The only thing I'm sort of left with now is there's still a few weak links, apart from, like, I totally overhauled my computer just 2 months ago at the start of the year, sort of 3 months ago now. I can't believe it's April. The only things that aren't great at the moment are my speakers, which I wasn't using before because I had my headphones, but the headphones are now inoperable, so I have to replace those, which is another story, and I'm still not sure what I'm going to do there. But I need to replace either my speakers or replace my headphones, and the only thing left is the keyboard, which, you know, 3 years ago, just like the MSI, you know, a mechanical full-sized Razer Basilisk V3 was no slouch, but it's loud. It's loud for the job at hand. And also we've got TMR technology, which goes into the next thing. And I've been looking at keyboards, and nothing's really ticking all the boxes. You know, when you look, what do I want? Honestly, smaller size. I don't need a full-size keyboard. It takes up room on the desk. It's nice to have the number pad here, because if I'm using different languages or Thai, then when you switch it over, you lose the top number, so you have to switch it back to English to type numbers. So it is nice to have a number pad here. It does serve a purpose. But my thinking is I might get like a wireless, like a Keychron K10 or something, so that if I ever just need something, I can just, you know, use that. But I'm thinking of going 10 keyless or smaller yet, because it seems like TMRs just aren't available. But nothing sort of ticks the boxes of being TMR, 8K polling, wireless, and black, apart from this, which is a Mons Geek, which is a Wooting clone. And this, as you can see, is out of stock. It says here it's a pre-ordered product. Can't find these anywhere, but these are just what I've said. They're TMR, they're wireless, 8K polling, and it's black, right? So it's everything I want, but it's just not available. So do I go Wooting? And looking at this price here, it's about twice the price by the time it gets into the country, which is a lot, half the cost of a C2. for a Wooting. I think I'd prefer a C2. No offense, Wooting, but I think I would rather put my money here and get a 42-inch. But all roads kind of lead back to this. Is it one of those things where once I get it, I'll never be able to go back? But again, it's wired, it's Hall effect, not TMR, and Hall effect does have its drawbacks. Main one being power consumption, which is where it being USB-C wired kind of makes up for it being wired. But like I said, I do want the freedom of being able to just throw my keyboard out of the way sometimes. I miss that ability because I do have, like I said, most of my stuff has sort of made its way over to DAO setup, but I do have a K2. So I do have the older K2, and like I said, I do miss this. This is what I want. I would love to have this back, but I can't be an Indian giver. I can't give this to DAO and then want it back, right? Where are we? Let's have a little look at OBS. So you've probably seen that, but I'll just switch it over to the full screen in case people aren't aware. But this is the Keychron K2, and it's brilliant. It's lovely little keyboard. ASMR for you. But I like being able to just, like, if I'm doing something else on the desk, plop it over here, boom, done. Off it goes. That's why I've got a big desk. That is why I have a big desk to begin with, so I can just throw it off to the side, and then I've got all this space in front of me. But when I've got the Basilisk, it's kind of just there, and it was okay before when I had like the riser and when I had the dual arms, because I could just throw it under the riser, and then that's where I go, do I get a monitor arm for this, and then just have that free space back there again. But I just think that that I like the way the monitor looks. I just like how it's just simple. I like that it's just no fuss. And it's right in front of my vision. I don't see a need for more extraneous stuff. Which is why I want to go to this. I want less stuff. Like less stuff. But yeah, so they do have the K2, which is TMR apparently, but they first called it Hall effect, and then they said no, it's actually TMR. But they called it Hall effect because people didn't understand TMR technologies at the time, and I don't really know how I feel about that. And I know the batteries in them are terrible, and the wire is like out of the side, which is a bit dumb. As you can see, it's sort of like there. It comes out of the side, which is I think it's a bit dumb. I think you want the wire coming out of the top. If you're gonna, and you basically have to use the Keychron's wired, otherwise you're charging them every night. DAO uses it wired with their Mac Mini, and it just works. So I don't really want to go back to Keychron. I just want something of that vein in my life, which is why I'm looking at these Wootings, and they're even smaller again, right? So who knows? But they do have one of these in stock in Thailand at the moment. Not one of these. I would buy this in a heartbeat at $35, but again, on back order. They actually have one of these in stock, which look goddamn awful. And now I could change the keycaps on top, and I'll probably end up just doing that. And my thinking is, if I get some nice keycaps, if I get like a nice aluminium frame, then what I can do is I can just throw a Wooting PCB in it, can't I? It's not gone to waste. All the stuff I'm getting is not gone to waste. So I think I might do that, especially because, like I said, I'm getting this out into the other room. So I'm going to be needing sort of keyboards, because Steam Big Picture is great. for just loading in games, but when you have to manage your library, download stuff, manage your drives, it's not perfect. But I do have this, I suppose. I also have this, which I can just plug in, because it's terrible on Bluetooth as well. I don't think they're great, but I could just plug it in with a USB-C cable and use that when needed and just sit on the floor or wherever. Not brilliant, not, like not perfect, but PC life, this is what you do to get actual 4K or close to it this day. It's still sort of DLSS quality, but at least it's not as aggressive as PlayStation, and you don't have to spend $1,000 to get a pro model just to get, oh my god, different conversation. Let's carry on. So yeah, if this comes in stock, I'm ordering it straight away. That won't even touch the sides in terms of cost. Same with this. If one of those come in stock in black, I buy that straight away, but I'm likely to get this one just for the meantime and order some keycaps, order an aluminium frame, maybe even like the tofu one, because I can use it with a Wooting, or I might just buy it, I might just buy the Wooting, the Razor, and then the Death Adder. Even though I do have this, the Death Adder was my first choice, and I would like to sort of be able to A/B the two top tier mice. I think that they're the go-tos. I know there's the Zowie, but I think the Zowie is like 33k DPI, so I think the Zowie is more of a previous gen iteration, so it would be nice to have like the Hero 2 and then have the Death Adder V4, which is supposed to be the fastest mouse available at 45k, slightly faster than Logitech, but I just like the look of it. I'm a bit of a Razer fanboy. I'm not ashamed to say that. I am a bit of a Razer fanboy. When I was sort of younger, Razer was the coolest stuff you could get. And the Naga, like everyone wanted a Naga because that was the World of Warcraft time. And what was the other one? The free one. Everyone was playing that. So, everyone wanted the Naga, and I remember that. And it sticks with you, right? So that's probably what April's going to look like. This will be here in sort of like 3 to 5 days max. This will probably be here shortly afterwards, and then I'm debating, what to do about this, because it does add up. It does add up a lot. And then this is where the case comes in. Even though I quite like my Fantex case, I'm thinking of going with this one, but if I went with this one, I'd have to upgrade the radiator because it's sort of back mounted, and I would want to go 360, because 240 is fine for a front mount radiator like this, where it just absorbs the fresh air. But I'm thinking with this, it might not have quite the ability to, so I would rather have it drag in 3 fans worth of fresh air, because we've only got the one in, the one out, whereas this has got 3 in, 3 out. And then obviously the GPU would be sucking in air from this side, which would be great, because honestly, like, it's most of gaming, apart from some caching, is GPU bound, right? And I'll be running that at 99, 100 all the time, because it's powering a 5070 powering a 4K TV. But there you go. There's what it would look like inside. You've got the one in, one out, which is fine-ish, as long as you've got a nice big radiator there, and I'd have that intaking. And I would then just have that blowing up. So you should envision it as being the air's coming in and up like this, because hot air rises naturally. You don't, positive pressure is, that's what it'll be like. And the reason I want it is because it's got this little stand here, and obviously being vertical, it won't take up much room. I can park it right next to the TV, and it looks great. Where is it? There is a nice picture of it somewhere. Here we are. So you've got this little slot in the back here, so the cable management will be invisible. I could just have that going straight out the back and down behind the TV stand. So that's probably what, but again, this isn't in stock and it isn't a rush. Like, I've got a case, I can just buy this whenever, and it's not a massive amount of money, this either. I think it's like $50-ish, maybe. It's not even 100, I don't think. The same with these, like that. This is all small money, but this adds up. You're talking like $300+ for this once it's in the country. You're talking $300 plus for this, and then $300 for a mouse. That's what, once you add up all the little bits, and then another $700, you're talking over $1,500, maybe even coming up. You're knocking on the door of $2,000 US. On top of the 1,000 I just spent. This isn't cheap, and this is where, like, I kind of have no sympathy for a lot of people who are sort of saying that they want to start whatever it is they want to start. Like, it's investment. You have to invest in it. But this, I can't really count this. Yes, it does a lot for the channel. It's, a great point of reference, and it allows me to work in a different space, but also, like, it is going to have utility for my home. This, again, has utility as a photographer. And this is just, like I said in my original video, it's the hobby side, right? I can't say, like, this is the hobby side. We buy it because we want it. All this stuff, we buy it because we want it. I don't need another case. I don't need the cable management to be that perfect, but it's stuff we want. And if I'm this pedantic about the hardware, you can imagine what the software is like. And I'm not even at the software yet. We're writing, planning, working out the logistics of the mechanics, the cost, budgeting. So much more goes into this than anyone could ever understand. I'm not a solo dev. I'm a solo founder, and that's something that I want to be known. I'm not looking to do this off my own back. I will if I have to, and if YouTube, becomes my lifeline, then I can do this as long as I need to. But that's not the goal. The goal is to open a studio and hire hundreds of people, because that's what I want to do. I want people to make a game. I want the best artists. I want the best coders, programmers. I want the best writers. I want the best actors. I want the best musicians. And I want it to be made by people. I don't want to buy assets on a store. I don't want to generate on AI. I want it to be an orchestra. And when you play it, it's the symphony. That is what I want. And I think that's what a lot of people lack, and that's why they don't make it. And who knows if I'll make it or not. In my mind, as long as I hit the targets I want to hit, if this internal benchmark of Resident Evil provides just one idea, if it's done well, if I manage to pick up on what the writers of Silent Hill F intended, then the live stream's a success. Those are my metrics, and I'm very lucky to be in a position where it is all internal. Now, before we end this, I want to start playing older games, and I've just bought this. Well, good news, bad news. Bad news is I couldn't get the game that I was playing, which was Fear Effect, on Steam to record. It just, no matter what I choose on here, be it sort of window capture, display capture, game capture, it's just not allowing me to record it. So I think that maybe if I do want to record that, unless it's some anomaly I can fix, I might have to end up getting something like an Elgato and doing the screen extension, or whatever it's called, screen duplication, and have it. But I do have my my MacBook, which I forgot is actually a computer. But so I could have, in this setup, I could hook up the Elgato, and I could have my MacBook record straight onto an SSD. And that might be the answer. But I thought we'll end this video off with something decent at least, which is, it seems like Steam has sort of got a few deals on. Okay, right, it's showing on the screen now. So I don't know, like, if anyone knows a better alternative to OBS, then let me know. But there's a few things that I've had in my wish list that have gone down. But more than that, I found a few new things. So if we go into the store, and I've got my cart here, and I'll likely get pretty much all of these because they've got Resident Evil 1 through 3, the original PlayStation games. They are now available on Steam. And I absolutely love the originals. I know they're on Good Old Games without any DRM, but they're also like twice the price on there, if not a little bit more, and it is just nice to have everything on Steam. And Dino Crisis has gone down half price, so it's good that I didn't buy them straight off the bat. You know, it all adds up, especially when you're buying this amount. So I'll definitely get Dino Crisis 1 and 2. I'm definitely going to get Onimusha 1 and 2. Then I'm thinking about getting the Devil May Cry franchise pack, which is 1 to 3 HD remasters, plus 4, 5, and the Ninja Theory version. And I would like to get all the Ninja Theory games that I can get, because I know Heavenly Sword, I think, is still locked into the PlayStation 3, right? And then Still Wakes the Deep. This is really cheap because I've already got Chronos. And I've been put off this because of all the yellow paint, but I do want to see what they do, because this is sort of my target for my game, this sort of level. And I haven't really delved into, you know, the Chinese room, but they do have a good reputation. And then finally, Fatal Frame, which again, I get a little bit of a discount because I already have Silent Hill in this bundle, but I do want to play Fatal Frame. And the same goes for Crimson Desert. I don't know if I'm going to feature this much in terms of benchmarking, because it's quite radically different to what I want to make, but it is a game that I want to play personally, just like Forza Horizon 6, so that's probably going to be done. And it does add up, 5,500 baht, so what's that, just under $200, $185, something like that, so not stupidly expensive, the price of sort of two AAA games at full price, a little bit more than that maybe, you know, especially here in Thailand. It's the price of 2 disc-based PS5 games, basically. And I'm getting basically the whole of Capcom's history on the PlayStation 1, a little bit of the PlayStation 2, and we're getting Crimson Desert and Fatal Frame. So I think that's a pretty decent haul if I do end up going for it. But I'll have a little look to see what else is available at a discount, because I do know there's a few more things like the Resident Evil Origins bundle, so Resident Evil 0, there's no Code Veronica here, so I may, you know, 272, I could just add that into the cart, and then we've got pretty much everything that I can think of. I don't have the original Resident Evil 4, but that's always going down in price. Yeah, so we'll end it here. It's a shame that I couldn't get Fear Effect working, but we'll figure that out. As we always say on the channel, this is Banshee Interactive. I'm David Roberts, and remember, this is not a simulation.